What's your lame claim to fame?
As it happens, I know the guy who played the German sniper who gets shot through a scope. I slapped Miley Cyrus. Edit for story, we grew up in the same town and went to the same church. After the first season of Hannah Montana, which I was a huge fan of, she came back to see her old church friends, which I was not, but we kinda knew each other, so I took a chance and tried to talk to her. She insulted me, so I, being roughly 11 years old and pissed off, slapped her and ran. I shook the hand of a man who shook hands with Albert Einstein. I once sold a magic trick to Penn Jillette. I was on one of those low-budget high school quiz team shows. The host was this crusty old college professor. He had a huge white beard, a cowboy hat, and one of those tweed jackets with leather patches on the elbow. The question was something like the state of Kentucky is the national leader in this dubious habit. I responded, interfamily relationships, like incest. It was epic. They zoomed into the host, who turned bright red and yelled no, and I had a ton of people from the state of Kentucky completely hate me. Totally worth it. My football team was playing in the background of a local news article being filmed about the playing fields possibly being sold for housing. I missed an open goal right behind the presenter. I work at a lovely but poorly resourced hospital in the outer skirts. The major hospitals have award-winning research, cutting-edge technology, prestigious surgeons and professors on staff. In contrast, our little hospital gets some criticism and flack from the community. But recently our obstetrics team helped the delivery of the fattest baby recorded in the entire country. So that's our recent, and only, claim to fame. And I'm here for it. I once ate an entire Nature Valley bar without spilling any crumbs. I won a roundest belly competition in a baby pageant in the 1980s. I called into my local radio show to inform them about an accident on the bridge. That's right, 2 minutes of airtime, just me bitching about traffic and hoping everyone is okay. It was exhilarating. Can't wait for those remaining 13 minutes of fame everyone has promised. The high school science Olympiad competition had to change the rules the year after I first competed to ban the use of explosives. Edit, it wasn't that big of a deal, really. It was unconfined smokeless propellant. I used the kind of flake powder used for loading pistol and shotgun shells. I played in a band with Neil Armstrong's son Rick, for about 5 minutes on a cruise ship. He's a good guitarist. I was in a punk rock music video in the early 2000s as a kid. I played the younger version of the singer in the video. Edit, not to disappoint, but it wasn't punk rock as I've now discovered. My mistake. But you've all been persistent enough to convince me. Anyways, the song is Mixtape by Butch Walker. I won my school-sponsored prom after party's Dance Dance Revolution competition. I have the worst varsity score ever in my state's high school men's golf. Shot a 122 because the number 4 players was arrested and they needed a body to fill his absence. Didn't adjust well to the famously fast greens and struggled to sink putts. I got stuck at the top of a roller coaster when I was 8 from some seagulls sitting on the track at the bottom of the first hill. We were stuck up there for 30 minutes and we made the local news. When they zoomed in on the train for the coaster, you could see me right at the top of the crest in the first hill about to go down. An episode of BuzzFeed Unsolved mentions the Villa Montezuma, a supposedly haunted house. They talk about a little girl who, after going to the bathroom during a tour, said she heard music being played despite no music playing. I'm like 90% sure that was me, as I had that exact situation happen to me and the house isn't open most of the time. I stand by my story of hearing music. I bowled over 3 porta-johns during a parachuting accident. Weird Al walked right past me in the gift shop of the Field Museum in Chicago. I single-handedly fixed the McDonald's ice cream machine by just unscrewing the faucet and rinsing it. The ice cream coming out somehow would stick a bit every time to the side of the faucet and keep piling on. The temperature was just right for it to stay solid and sticky while not running down. No one ever thought to look up through the faucet, and I felt proud to serve people their ice cream for minimum wage. Some x-rays I had as a baby are in a couple medical history books because of the rare kind of bowel obstruction/hernia thing that I had that only like 11 others documented in mankind had at the time. My dad was a punk rock drummer in SoCal and knew members of Green Day, Millencolin, and more personally. He said the singer from Green Day was a whiny bitch. When I was 15 I got cast in a movie called Something Beginning with P. Thought it would be my stepping stone into the acting world. I got cast as an unconscious drunk uncredited background extra who wore a paratrooper hat so big that it covered their face. I was only in the last scene because the director forgot I was on set and hadn't written any set cast lists or any clear scripts. It was a shitty movie anyway, so kinda dodged that bullet. My sister and her husband do the grooming and preparation for the direwolves on Game of Thrones. They were on an American news piece about it, I think on MSNBC, all the way here in Belfast, Northern Ireland. One day producers for it when filming here just entered their dog grooming business and inquired about it. Perfect fit as they're huge fans of the show. I lost my virginity to an all-star track and field athlete. At one point she held the record in America for shot put and hammer throw. Was a model for a bit and met a few celebrities. Had the opportunity to share a few drinks with Marilyn Manson and asked him some questions about his interview with Bill O'Reilly. We actually got along quite well and spoke for a while longer. Nice guy, very articulate. At a campaign rally in 1968 I shook hands with Bobby Kennedy. At some point in his life, he shook hands with his dad, Joseph Kennedy. When attending a state dinner in Washington, Joe Kennedy shook hands with Franklin Roosevelt. As a young man, Franklin Roosevelt had met and shaken hands with President Grover Cleveland. At Cleveland's inauguration, he shook hands with President Arthur, who, when serving as vice president, had served and undoubtedly shaken hands with President James Garfield, a former Union general who had shaken hands with Ulysses Grant. Grant had served Abraham Lincoln and had shaken hands with him. Lincoln had undoubtedly shaken hands upon his inauguration with then-President James Buchanan, a Democrat who succeeded and undoubtedly shook hands with his predecessor, Franklin Pierce. Logically, this can go on to every president, all the way back to George Washington. My cat is the largest, fattest, cat on record at my vet, by 8 pounds. 8.